Oh, yeah, we had some problems.
Order. This meeting on May 21st, 2019, Planning Commission Boarding and Zoning Appeals. Start with a roll call. From my right, please.
Ron Campbell.
Lynn Heath.
Bill Schnauber.
Gary Israel.
Alex Zarchin.
Brian Davidson.
Okay. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from the April 16th, 2019 meeting. Everyone have a chance to review those that were present?
Yes.
Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 16th, 2019 Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeal minutes, as is.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, item number 4, Communications, Committee and Staff Report. Anything there, Les? Comments?
No news is good news. Building activity and, as you know, zoning and plating activity are up substantially from the last couple of years.
Yeah. Look, things are looking up. Any questions, gentlemen?
No.
Okay. Then we have the potential residential development report. Everybody has a copy of that, or should. Okay. Comments? All right. Item number 5, review of the project plan for the Andover Redevelopment District 2019, also known as the Heritage, for consistency with the intent of the comprehensive plan. Let's see here. The Heritage Project consists of a substantial residential project between Douglas Avenue on the north and Willowbrook Street on the south, and a mixed-use commercial project between Willowbrook Street and US 54-400. The proposed uses are in line with the comprehensive plan future land use, illustrated in Figure 9-2 of the plan, and promotes the US 54-400 lifestyle corridor, as depicted in Chapter 3, City Shaping, Keeping Andover Special. Les, comments? Can you tell us here?
I think you all are pretty much aware of the Heritage Project. It's split into two pieces, a residential component and a commercial component. And one of the things that's in play is a tax increment finance district, which helps to pay for the infrastructure improvements for the development. And a part of that approval process for the TIF district is for the Planning Commission to agree that the plan is in compliance with the comprehensive plan, and that's why I pointed out those two places in the plan that are obviously compliant. Mr. Jerry Jones and Lance Beal are here from the development. Jerry has a short presentation that he will make and present to you what he believes are those factors that make his plan in compliance with the comprehensive plan.
Mr. Jones?
Thank you. It's good to be here this evening. Jerry Jones. I'm with Jones Commercial Development Company, and I'm here representing Lease Properties, which is the property owner of the property that we're going to be talking about tonight. Lance Beal is here, and Mike Lease will be here momentarily, and they are the principals. They've assembled a team. I'm the developer. We are also working with J.T. Arnold and Associates, who are our commercial real estate group, Perfection Builders, who are the residential developers, MKC Engineers, who are land planners and engineers, and Gardner Group, who are helping us with our branding. As Les said, this step tonight is an important step in the process of creating a tax increment financing district and ultimately moving towards implementation of the tax increment financing projects. But there have been several steps that have led up to this point. Last year we worked with the city, put together a right-of-way agreement that led to Lease Properties dedicating the land for Yorktown Parkway and Kellogg, the future right-of-way of Kellogg, to the city. And that obviously has been done, and Yorktown Parkway is now under construction along the east side of this property, which was a major step forward. Also, earlier this year, working with city staff again and the city council, we entered into a development agreement. Lease Properties and Perfection Builders entered into a development agreement with the city of Andover, and that's been approved. Last week, the city council approved a resolution creating the tax increment financing district. And so that brings us to tonight with presenting the project plan to the Planning Commission. What I've just, the slide I've put up is the boundaries of the tax increment financing district. It's roughly bounded on the south by Kellogg US Highway 54, Douglas Avenue on the north, the new Yorktown Parkway on the east, and then it jogs around, as you can see, on the west property line. It also crosses over Yorktown at the south part of the project over to Archer. This is roughly 100 acres, so this is a significant tract of land. It's an infill development, and it's the type of development, again, as Les mentioned, that is contemplated in your comprehensive plan. It's compact, and is going to bring previously underutilized piece of property that Mr. Lease has assembled together and into a new development. What I've shown on the screen is the master plan for the Heritage, and it was generally described a little bit earlier. The north half of the site is residential. The south half of the site is mixed-use commercial. And a lot of the factors that planning considerations that are in your comprehensive plan and corridor study have been integrated into this master plan. For instance, there's a lot of connectivity, not only within the project with streets that connect the different neighborhoods, sidewalks that connect the neighborhoods, parks and greenways that connect the different parts of the development, but also go off the site and connect, for instance, along Shea Boulevard, there's a park that will be dedicated to the city of Andover and goes on up toward Meadowlark Elementary School. There's a bike and walking path along Yorktown that'll tie up into Central Park and the amphitheater. And also all of the main streets that are intersecting with this project are continued and brought into the project. One of the items that I pulled out of the comprehensive plan, I think this actually came out of the corridor study. I'm going to go ahead and read a couple of these passages because I think they really hit home how we arrived at this plan. It talks about as Les mentioned, the lifestyle corridor. And it says the conventional low-density big box format does not match the stated goals of a lifestyle corridor, which call for a more vibrant, high-density, mixed-use development. And that's really what we're trying to do here with the residential is higher density. I know that plan that Perfection Builders has developed has already been to the Planning Commission, and that Phase 1 plat has been approved. We've also incorporated this idea of mixed use and higher density into the commercial development, and I'll touch on that later. Reading on in the comprehensive plan, it says, however, this more appealing format will result in higher overall development costs related to construction, amenities, parking, and other factors, adding risks to the project from the developer's perspective. As a result, these types of higher density mixed-use developments are often financially infeasible based on current achievable rents in the local market. And that's true. You really, in Wichita, you really don't see this type of development, at least in a suburban location. There's some of this type of development in Old Town and downtown Wichita, but really we don't see a lot of this, and it really is new to the metro area. The plan goes on to say this does not necessarily mean the city needs to decide between accepting new development in the short term that does not fit well with a long-term vision or enforcing the requirements of the vision on proposed development. And it goes on to say that once a financial gap between the two formats has been determined, in other words, the difference between what a profitable, typical suburban development would be and the cost of a higher density, more vibrant, mixed-use development, that a wide variety of revenue-generating mechanisms are available in the state of Kansas to help subsidize new developments. And so that's really what we're talking about here is the use of tax increment financing to establish this network of streets and parks that I talked about earlier right up front that really sets the pattern of development. And this pattern, again, is very unique. This is an aerial, a bird's eye view of the master plan. This is looking north from above Kellogg, right into the heart of the master planned mixed-use development. There's a town square at the center of this that would have a gathering place for the community of Andover. We've had a couple of city councilmen refer to this as having the potential to being downtown Andover, and it's certainly the kind of vision that was contemplated in the plan. With, as you can see, the buildings are pushed up close to the street. There's on-street parking. We've got restaurants on each side of the Heritage Square. This particular image shows a hotel conference center on the other side of the pond, and again, you can see on-street parking throughout this. The parking lots are tucked behind the buildings. This is another view of Heritage Square. Again, this would be designed to accommodate a lot of community events and be a very active space, a place where people could just, go and go out to dinner and then hang out afterwards and maybe go to a small concert or there might be arts and crafts fairs, that type of thing that would really activate that space. This is a shot along one of the streets with the wide sidewalks. The ground floor would be retail, restaurants, cafes, boutiques. The upper level could be office or residential. So it's, again, mixed-use development with on-street parking and with the larger parking fields behind the building. And then this is a view of Yorktown Parkway. Again, the parkway's been designed to be nicely landscaped with walking and bike paths along the side. And again, you can see the buildings are oriented closer to the street with the parking behind. And one thing that we're going to get into the financial aspect of this a little bit, just to help you get a feel for the feasibility of this. But you can see there's a lot of amenities in this. Some nice street lights and street furniture and public art. And those are all incorporated into the cost estimates that we've been working with the city on. So that was the commercial aspect of this. The residential aspect, I think these slides might be familiar to you. This is one of the two neighborhoods that's in the master plan. This would be courtyards at the Heritage. This is Perfection Builders Epcon concept. It's been developed very successfully throughout the Wichita metro area. They've probably sold more homes than just about any developer in the city for over the last 5 years. And it's very appealing to empty nesters. That's their primary market. They don't have age restrictions, but these are intended to be, there's not a lot of yard with these. They're zero lot line development. The homes are close together. They tend to have 2-car garages. But what you can see in these images are the indoor-outdoor space. So almost all of the rooms within those courtyard homes orient out onto a courtyard. And so it creates a nice indoor-outdoor balance and again, has proven to be a very popular housing type in other parts of the metro area. The other neighborhood is they're referring to as Heritage Commons. And this would be this area would be targeting more young families. It's a traditional type of neighborhood, similar to what you might see in College Hill or Riverside in the Wichita area, where the homes are up close to the street. There's on-street parking. There's sidewalks along both sides of the street, front porches, and there are alleys behind the houses that have 2-car garages off of the alleys. So again, it's more of the compact development type that was contemplated in the comprehensive plan, and giving a nice balance of housing types. The courtyard homes are in the $300,000 up to $500,000 range, whereas this product here is probably going to be more in the $200,000 to $250,000 range. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what the tax increment financing district would finance, and the projects are all highlighted on this plan. They are streets, parks, and Heritage Square. The phasing in yellow are the phase 1, the first projects that would be done, and there are mainly 2 types of projects there. One are some streets around Yorktown and Kellogg. that would help activate and get that area started. And then also some of the infrastructure up in the residential area, the initial phase, the grading of the parks, the storm detention of the parks, and part of Shea Boulevard that ties up to the north all the way up to Central. The second phase would be completing the parks and completing the Backage Road and Sunset Boulevard down to Kellogg. And so this really starts to tie the whole thing together. And then the third phase would be Heritage Square and the Main Street. And I didn't mention the Backage Road, but that's really a critical piece of this. Again, it was a concept that was contemplated in the corridor study, and it will be a major east-west traffic carrier to relieve traffic off of Kellogg. And so the development is oriented really more off of the Backage Road than it is off of Kellogg. There's obviously limited access to Kellogg. So this is a major part of this TIF package. And what you see here then is a network of streets that creates city blocks that, again, are more walkable and compact and allow for easier implementation of a mixed-use strategy.
Just want to confirm, your Baggage Road, you called it?
Backage Road?
Baggage, is that
Right.
the Founder's Park?
Yeah, that's Founder's Parkway.
Okay.
So Backage Road is kind of the generic term. That was, and you can see we've named the streets here that's a little more colorful names than Backage Road. So real quickly, these projects total up to about $12.5 million. They're split pretty closely into the three phases. And then you can see the streets and infrastructure to create that grid. That street network is about 62% of the project, and the parks are about 38% of the project. And you can't really read this, but I just put it in here because it was in the project plan that you were provided, and I thought I'd explain what it is. This is the part of the feasibility analysis that was done, and Piper Jaffray was involved in putting this together. And what it shows is that the projected tax increment, new property taxes created by this project far exceed the cost of the projects that are being contemplated. And a tax increment financing district cannot extend for more than 20 years, but it can be lessened if the city chooses to do that. And this particular, our projections are, and of course this is all market-based and depending on, assuming we don't have a major recession, but that it could be retired as soon as 10 years. So that is the presentation. I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board?
I do have a question. Just,
Sure.
what happens if development does not meet goals on the cost? Where does the financing then come from?
There's a sharing of risk on this. The developers are posting letters of credit, which will be tapped if the city can't collect the taxes. There's a risk abatement cooked into this in doing the phases. And the first phase is really based on the residential portion. And you may have heard the saying before, retail follows rooftops. And the idea here really is to get the residential development going first. That is going to generate new property taxes right off the bat. And our agreement with the city is that we won't move forward to phase 2 until phase 1's performing. So I think that phase one was about $3.5 million, so it's really a pretty conservative plan. But I'm not saying the city's not taking any risk. I'm just saying that we will be sharing in that.
So, you know, we have $3 million in a letter of credit put up on this $12.5 million project. And what we would anticipate, I mean, unless things go horribly wrong, is that the residential increment of this will start paying on those bonds once they're issued. Now, if just the residential portion of this gets developed over the next 20 years, or well, hopefully over the next 5 to 6 years, that is projected to cover our bond payment without any commercial development. So when I saw those figures, I was like, you know, obviously residential development probably does take 5, 6, 7 years, but we're going to get back there. In the meantime, the shortage in the increment will be covered by a $3 million letter of credit the developers put up. So when I talked to the council a little bit about this, I said, I don't think we're going to get to the point where, you know, we have $1 million debt payment, and we have no tax revenue coming in. My guess is the increment created could shortfall that payment potentially, but we'll have several opportunities to take from the letter of credit to make up that shortfall. Hopefully we have a surplus like he's talking about. If the commercial takes off, then we can retire the bonds early, potentially do some other projects that they would have nothing to do with that tax increment, such as, you know, what we don't know for sure what's going to happen with the pedestrian overpass in Kellogg. We're hoping to get funding from the regional area, but if that doesn't happen, that would be one thing in 7 or 8 years. If this took off, we could look at. Lance and Les did a really good job of thinking about those future projects and the possibilities. Not to say we'll do it for sure, but the council at that time would have that option. So, you know, we feel overall, while there is some risk, that we've mitigated some of that risk with the letter of credit, and we, you know, just look at the developers we're involved with, and we have pretty good confidence that the city's not going to bear too much of the brunt of this.
So then the phase one is the focus to get the residential first, and then having that established before moving on to the commercial.
Right. We hope we get a couple commercial bites, you know, during the process of the residential, but, you know, that we had this top flight developer committing to this was a big heritage. Committing to this, it was a big deal. Or excuse me, Perfection Builders is, you know, the pretty well-known builder in the area.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's all for us. Thank you very much. Well done. Well, at this point, I believe we need to have a motion to proceed at this point, Les.
Your motion is simply to recommend that this plan is in compliance with your comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I heard what he said.
Do you want to step up here?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve the Heritage project plan as being part of the lifestyle corridor that has been depicted by the city and part of the comprehensive plan for future land use.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I will abstain.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5-0. Passes. Thank you.
501.
501. Thank you, gentlemen. Good luck.
Thank you for that fine explanation
was.
of everything.
Very well done. Okay. Item number 6. We have case Z 2019-04. Public hearing and recommendation on a zoning amendment application to change the zoning district classification from the I-1 Industrial District and MXI Mixed Industrial Commercial District to the B3 Retail and Service Business District on property generally located at 1108 North Andover Road, Andover, Kansas. Staff shows no reason not to recommend approval pending the outcome of this public hearing. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. I'm going to lay out a few ground rules here, if be patient with me here. It's important that you present any facts or views you have as evidence so that an informed recommendation can be made by the Planning Commission to the governing body for their final decision. By state statute, the governing body does not have to hold another public hearing on the matter, although they may listen to whomever they wish. You will be asked if there is any new information which was not heard at this hearing. It is to everyone's advantage if you present all the necessary information at this hearing. After the city zoning's administrator provides the commission with background information, I will call upon the applicant. Public comments will be heard following the applicant. Once all have been heard, the applicant will have an opportunity for final comments. The Planning Commission will close the hearing to public comments and will then consider the 14 factors on which to base their recommendation. During this time, the commission may direct questions to the applicant, the public, and/or city staff. You should be aware that the Planning Commission can recommend that the site be platted or replatted if necessary, and that a site plan may be required for approval. You should be aware that any uses permitted outright in a district by the regulations can receive a zoning permit. Furthermore, if the applicant chooses to describe various features of their development plans, the city can only enforce those provisions which are covered in zoning and other city codes. Anyone wishing to speak must be recognized by the chairperson, give their name and address. Please use the podium and speak clearly so that your comments can be recorded for inclusion in our minutes. Okay. Any disqualifications?
No.
No.
Okay. Official notice of this hearing was published in the Butler County Times-Gazette on April 27, 2019, and notices were mailed to the applicant and 6 real property owners of record in the area of notification on April 23, 2019. The record shows that at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and the hearing date. Unless there is evidence to the contrary from anyone present, I will declare that proper notification has been given. Okay. Now ask the commission if there's received any ex parte communications prior to this hearing.
No.
No.
This time I call upon Les to give us any information relevant.
This case is a pretty simple downzoning of the property from the industrial zone to the retail business zone. It's on a corner along Andover Road in an area that's identified in the comprehensive plan as a potentially mixed-use commercial development area.
Okay. Is the applicant present? Do you have any comments? Do you have anything you would like to state at this time? Your name and address, please.
Gary Anderson, my wife Christine. We are the principals behind this. The plan here is taking an active business, Andover Dance Academy. It's been operational in Andover for 2 years now. The business is overgrown its facility. A lot of kids in Andover now need a little more room, and that's the idea behind this. The building itself is approximately 6,000 square feet. It's on at this point on vacant land. It's going to be a land development situation. We're not asking for a lot from the city except to improve the facility, provide some opportunity for the local children, and increase the tax base, and make it a better property. That's the plan for it. The rest of the information you gentlemen and the lady have up front, and we'll be glad to provide you if you have anything besides that, or require anything besides that. Any questions?
Questions?
Sounds good.
Anyone?
I'll just, go ahead, Alex. You go
Okay.
first.
I was just going to have a question. Just looking at the designs, is this designed to be accessible directly off of Andover Road, or is this designed to be coming off of Commerce Street?
It's actually going to be designed so it has access off of both.
Both.
The primary will be off of Commerce Street. The idea not to conflict too much with traffic on Andover Road based on traffic counts, based on, causing congestion on the road itself. The primary entrance will be off of Commerce Road with an exit and a backup entrance off of Andover Road.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of curious, what's your enrollment been over the last 2 years?
What's our enrollment been?
Enrollment of youth that are in the dance?
Well, I'm not one of them, but no, the enrollment currently is about 120 dancers. Quite a few of them have been turned away. We're looking for at least double that within a short amount of time. The demand is here. Apparently, dance is a lot larger of a lucrative business in the bedroom communities than most people think. And we believe the potential is there. The building is built. It's done in 2 phases. We've done this in a conservative manner. What you see up there is basically the first phase. It's designed based and predicated on the numbers where we do not see much problem in filling it. The second phase allows for an additional 2,800 square feet to be added later on. The design and the plans and the architecture is designed with this phase 2 already allowed for, should we decide to act on that down the road. But we don't want to bite off too much here up front. We're trying to do it, walk before you run and do it right. We're trying to make this thing work well, and that's the plan.
And what age groups do you cater to?
The age groups are 2.5 to age 18. And once they start, generally in the industry, they continue on. They come back 2 to 3 times a week, pretty much for as long as they dance. And especially with young girls, they do it for years. So it's not a phase of their childhood. It kind of becomes a lifestyle, and they do it for a very long time.
Good, thank you.
So just one more question then. So this is a movement, this is the business that is over in the kind of strip center further to the south then?
Yes, sir. It's up at Weatherstone, the mall, up near the Dollar General, right north of
Right
Ace
across
Hardware.
from the Dollar General? Okay.
Yes, so it's in there currently. They're occupying 1,900 square feet at this time, and it's just simply too small. So room is a factor. That's why we're here.
And then when is the plan to, have the building available then?
Not soon enough.
Okay.
We're working on
Get it
that.
going as fast as possible then.
Yeah, we're trying to do it, we're trying to make sure we do it right and everything, in sequence. So obviously it's a process. We're looking at probably by year's end, if everything goes the way it should. And if we can exceed that, then that'll be a great and wonderful thing. But right now, we're looking at probably December.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, any members from the public have any comments regarding this? No? All right. Any written communications been received? Nope. Okay. I don't think the applicant has any more final comments. Hearing no further public comments, I hereby close the public portion of this hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the commission wishes to ask questions to clarify information. We will now deliberate the request. There are 14 factors which the commission must consider in order to make findings and ultimately a recommendation. All right.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to read those factors?
You're capable, Gary.
Okay, I'll see if my voice holds up.
You do a good job.
Number 1, do adequate sewage disposal and water supply and all other necessary public facilities, including street access, exist, or can they be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on the subject property if the change in zoning were approved? Staff has commented, public water, sewer, and streets are in place and adequate. Would concur. Number 2, if the zoning change request was approved, would the subject property need to be platted or replatted or have in lieu of dedications made in order to provide needed right-of-ways, easements, building setback lines, or access control? Staff has commented, the property is currently platted and no additional dedications are anticipated.
I thought it was, is that you're going from I-1 to B3, and that plating still applies? Okay. Just wanted to confirm that.
Number 3, if the zoning change request was approved, would the subject property need a screening plan for existing or potential uses? Staff has said compliance with site plan review committee standards would be required. And would concur. Number 4, what fact-based information in support of or in opposition to the requested zoning change has staff received? Staff has commented that they have received nothing at this time. Number 5, concur. Number 5, if there has been an error in the application of these zoning regulations to the subject property, would the requested zoning change correct the error? Staff has commented, no error is known at this time. Number 6, how suitable or unsuitable is the subject property for its current zoning? Staff has commented the property is suitable for mixed light industrial commercial uses.
Concur.
Definitely.
Number 7, is the length of time the subject property has been vacant or underdeveloped under its current zoning a factor in the zoning change request? Staff has commented no, would concur.
Concur.
Number 8, how reasonably well-suited will the requested zoning change of the subject property be within the current zoning of nearby properties? Staff has commented the proposed use would be compatible with the surrounding uses. Would concur.
Concur.
Number 9, has the zoning change been requested because conditions in the area of the subject property have changed or are changing? If so, what is the nature and significance of these conditions? Staff has commented the former industrial heavy commercial area is transitioning to a more retail and service business area. Would concur.
Now, I might have a question on that.
Okay.
Is that, because this is the same road that's connecting to the Vornado, warehouse plant, where we're talking about additional traffic coming in and out of there with heavy, shipments and large trucks coming in and out of there. So,
That's
All right.
true, and those,
Which way would they be going in and out of there? 'Cause one of the reasons they're there is the turnpike, or the interstate. I shouldn't say turnpike, interstate.
right, but then, is there access there, though, that they're going to be utilizing Andover Road to come in and out of that new warehouse facility?
well, being an employee of Vornado, I can tell you that we already take a lot of our shipments in on 13th Street. This will help alleviate some of the traffic that's on 13th and put it on Commerce. That would be semis and container loads that would be coming in between the hours of 7 and 5. Nothing during the evening time. So I don't know if it's going to interfere with the Dance Academy or not.
I don't know. Sorry to pause the process here. It's just kind of looking at just that site and, the road issue there, but.
I
So.
think it's a valid question.
Oh, yeah.
Right, I'd have to concur with Gary's summary there, that knowing the nature of the proposed business and the nature of Vornado's business, that two probably don't have many conflicts as far as timing for traffic.
Would that be, what are your hours of operation?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah, I would,
Yes, please.
Excellent question. Maybe this will help. The way the business is designed, most of the hours are in the evening, okay? There's not going to be a lot of people parked in the lot. So as your information will show you, there's been some adjustments to the actual parking spots required. But the primary flow of traffic will be off of Commerce, dropping off the dancers and the children, and then the cars leaving. So that's the reason you'll see slightly less parking spots in the actual design itself. Most of the time during the day, it's going to be quiet. This is an evening activity. Most of the time the kids are in school, and when they're done in school, after about 4 p.m., they start to dance all the way up until 9 o'clock at night. So you won't see anything hardly at all in the mornings. Early afternoons, it's generally also quiet. So it's kind
How
of
late are you open? How late are, excuse me, how late are you open?
generally 9 o'clock. We try not to keep the children out too long, and the classes end, I believe, at by 8:30 to 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
Well, one more question. Do
Sure.
you have recitals there or performances? You want to come to the podium?
Podium, please.
Actually, the artistic director couldn't be here, which is our daughter, because she's busy this week. It's recital week. But she likes to have the recitals, like this year it's going to be at Century 2. So the recital portion of it is off campus. Last year it was at WSU in their facility. So there would be some type of daytime, small portion of it maybe in the summertime where they have 2-week summer sessions, but for the most part it's evening, starts at 4:30 and 5 o'clock and goes till 9, and then it's complete. Did that answer your question?
Can I have your name, please, for
Oh,
the
sorry.
records?
Christine Anderson,
Thank you.
17 Scottsdale.
Okay. That's all I have.
okay.
Thank you. Okay,
Number,
that was number 9.
that was number 9.
Yes.
Number 10, what are the current land uses, character and conditions of the subject property and the surrounding neighborhood? Staff comments that the surrounding uses are a mixture ranging from industrial manufacturing to retail and service businesses to residential uses on the west side of Andover Road.
Concur.
Concur.
Number 11, would the proposed zoning change of the subject property allow land uses which might have detrimental effects on nearby properties, and if so, how? Staff comments that they believe that the proposed uses are less impactful than the current permitted mixed industrial commercial uses. Would concur.
Concur.
Concur. No.
Number 12, how would the requested zoning change conform with the city's comprehensive plan and other adopted master plans and policies? Staff comments, the comprehensive plan projects mixed uses along the Andover Road corridor at this location.
Concur.
I say projects, I mean projects, excuse me. Number 13, do any professional persons knowledgeable on conditions that affect this zoning change request have information or recommendations to provide which would be helpful in its evaluation? Staff has commented approval as applied for.
Agreed.
Okay. Number 14, how would the potential loss in value or hardship imposed on the applicant compared to the relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare if there is a change from the current zone to the requested zone? Staff comments, they perceive no detriment to the public health, safety, and welfare from the proposed downsizing,
Zoning.
or downzoning, excuse me. Thank you for correcting me, autocorrect. And I would comment that I think it actually helps the health and safety and welfare of the community by having opportunities for the youth.
I would concur.
Yep. And it speaks pretty highly that they have to expand in order to meet the requirement.
I think it's
Gee.
wonderful, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Having discussed and reached conclusions on our findings of fact, I would remind the commission that a proper motion should reflect the factors on which it is based, and if approval is recommended, then consideration should be given to any conditions that might be attached. Is there a motion to either recommend approval, modification, and approval, or disapproval, or to table the discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would make the motion.
All right.
Having considered the evidence at the hearing and the factors to evaluate the application, I, Brian Davidson, excuse me, move that we recommend to the governing body that case number Z 2019-04 be approved to change the zoning district classification from present I-1 Industrial District and MXI Mixed Industrial Commercial District to the B3 Retail and Service Business District based on the findings of the Planning Commission as recorded in the summary of this hearing and based on factors 6, 10, and 11.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None. Motion passes 6-0.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Then you got to do your closing remarks.
Thank you. This case will be forwarded to the governing body with the Planning Commission's recommendation and a written summary of the hearing for consideration at their regular meeting of June 11, 2019. The recording of this hearing will be retained for at least 60 days after the final determination is completed on this case. Protest petitions against the case, but not directed at the Commission's recommendation as such, may be received by the city clerk for 14 days after tonight, which is June 4, 2019, at 4:30 p.m. If there are properly signed protest petitions with accurate legal descriptions from the owners of record of 20% or more of the total real property owners within the official area of notification, both inside and outside of the city, and not counting public street right-of-ways or specific statutorial excluded property, then such a change shall not be passed except by a 3/4 vote of all members of the City Council. We thank you for participating in this hearing. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of our meeting. Okay. All right, item number 7. Petition for annexation. Recommendation on the intent to annex an unplatted tract located at the northeast corner of North Andover Road and East 21st Street North, Butler County, Kansas. The proposed annexation is identified within the proposed city limits outlined in the comprehensive plan. The area lies along the Andover Road Key Corridor, is adjacent to the existing city limits, and public water, sewer, and streets are in place and readily extended to the site. Staff knows of no reason not to recommend annexation. Les, any comments?
I think those comments pretty well summarize staff's position on this. You can see on the overhead here, the area that is bordered in red is the subject property. The yellow dashed line is the existing city limits, so you can see that it's adjacent to the Cornerstone subdivision and just north of 21st Street along Andover Road. As we've noted, there are public utilities in the area. There's a public sanitary sewer across the street. The proposed area is in the Rural Water District 5 service boundary area. Rural Water 5 has water lines in the area, but we believe some extensions would be required in order to service this tract.
Comments from the table?
Looks good.
No, what's just the purpose of the annexation then?
This is the subject property of the next zoning case that's on your agenda.
Okay. Self-explanatory, thank you.
All right. Do we need to open? Okay. No other comments, gentlemen? Ma'am? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve the petition for annexation of the unplatted tract located at the northeast corner of North Andover Road and East 21st Street, North Butler County, Kansas.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the petition for annexation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. All right. Item number 8, Case Z 2019-05. Public hearing and recommendation on a zoning amendment application to change the zoning district classification from the Agricultural District 40, Butler County, to the B3 Retail and Service Business District and SF2 Single Family Residential Medium Density District on property generally located at the northeast corner of North Andover Road and East 21st Street, Andover, Kansas. Staff supports the zoning of the subject property for residential uses only because the comprehensive plan suggests limiting commercial uses to the Andover Road key corridor south of 21st Street and the medical node along 21st Street. We're going to recess the Planning Commission and convene the Board of Zoning Appeals.
No,
Oh, no,
not
that's
yet.
next.
That's next item.
That's
Yeah.
my fault. Okay. Les, your turn.
I think those comments again pretty well summarize this. The applicant desires to create a neighborhood that both has a commercial component along Andover Road and a residential component further back off of Andover Road. As we've noted, the comprehensive plan doesn't support further commercial zoning along the Andover Road corridor north of 21st Street, but it would support residential development of the property.
Again, where's parcel 1 and 2? How is it divided?
So the property is not platted yet, so parcel 1 and parcel 2 are legally described just for the zoning. So if you look at the screen in front of you, you'll notice the Andover, the Bruno Township Cemetery. So if you extended a line south from its east boundary, that would be parcel 1 or the commercial component. Everything east of that extended south line would be residential.
Be parcel 2.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That sounds good.
Okay, again, any other questions for Les from anybody?
I think B3 is a good business number there, yep.
Okay.
Any other-
But again, that's not what the comprehensive plan, any commercial usage in that particular area is not recommended or hasn't been part of the plan. We're recommending, or we're looking at just the residential portion of that.
Oh, so we're only approving the residential.
Well,
Okay.
that's what we're discussing. The
Oh, okay.
applicants come up wanting parcel 1 to be commercial and parcel 2 to be residential.
Yes.
And the comprehensive plan, the quarter wants everything
Those are guidelines.
to be residential up in that area.
Yeah.
We have enough commercial property as it is.
Okay. Yep.
One quick question then for Les. And just to be refreshed, so on the zoning map here, we have B3 zone for that corner right at 21st and Andover Road, and then just to the north of that, there's a B2. What would be the difference on a B2?
The B2 is less intense business uses, more neighborhood-oriented rather than pass-through traffic along 21st Street. They would be more oriented towards the things that the homeowners in the area would use.
Okay.
The original Cornerstone planned unit development proposed an elementary school for that site, but the school district chose to locate their facilities on the west side of the Cornerstone development along 159th Street.
I agree with that. That was a good choice. Yes, I do.
Heath remembers from the year 2000 when the Cornerstone planned unit development was developed.
Good memory.
Thank you.
Yep.
I need to backtrack here a little bit. I got Les ahead of, is any disqualifications declared for this?
No.
No.
Official notice for this hearing was published in the Butler County Times-Gazette on April 27, 2019, and notices were mailed to the applicant and 41 real property owners of record in the area of notification on April 23, 2019. The record shows that at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and the hearing date. Unless there is evidence to the contrary from anyone present, I will declare that proper notification has been given. Any ex parte communications?
No.
No.
Then it was Les. Okay, now I can open it up to the applicant. Are they here? Okay.
And we were requesting that first 650 feet or whatever that is to be commercial zoning. You have commercial zoning across the street,
Yep.
and, I mean, what we have there is probably more commercial, what we requested is probably more commercial zoning than would actually get built, would be my guess. But I think the owner still would like to have some commercial zoning, and he's looking at a neighborhood type of zoning. I mean, he's not, the only reason we said B3 instead of B2 was one of the things he's thinking about is if he had like a little cafe or something with outdoor seating, which isn't part of the B2, but it's a conditional use in B3. Otherwise, B2 would probably be fine zoning for what they want to do. But we'd like to at least get some commercial zoning out of there. I mean, at least across the street from what's already zoned commercial on the other side of Andover Road.
Yeah, that's B2.
Any questions for the applicant?
What do you see as far as the housing component of the development?
as far as,
Like what type of housing
How big a
is
lot?
it?
the minimum lot size, I think, is 8,400 square feet. We're looking at about 80 by 120 foot lot.
It's a small, single-family home?
Single family, yes.
Okay. Do you know about how many of those would then fit in that property area?
Can't remember how many we had. It's, I think on the average, about 3 lots per acre, and there's 70 acres. Or, well, 70 total, including the commercial, so there's maybe 50 non-commercial, the way it's, what we're asking for right now, so 100 and some change. It'd be a multi-phase project.
Okay.
Do you know which phase they'd be going for first, residential or commercial?
Residential. They don't have any commercial plans at this point.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I would lean more towards B2 also, like you said, except for that one situation. Yeah. And we can't override that. That's-
Can we?
Yeah, there
Okay.
is, we can do that.
That would be fine.
When the application is put in, no, now, but I meant we could, we actually want to do it. Is that correct, Les? They want to put a restaurant that they can eat outside and
Okay, are there any members of the public who would wish to speak on this? Please come up to the podium and name and address, please.
Catherine and William Sheldon, 2401 North Gilmore Drive. That's an Andover mailing address. We're actually in the county. We've lived in our property now for 19 years, and many of the owners there have lived there 30 years, some of them. I'm not saying that as an investment for somebody that that's not important, but for us, that view, for us coming from Phoenix, is worth more money to us than anything else. We have from our yard, we can see the cemetery, we can see the Bruno maintenance yard through the trees in the wintertime. We see the wildlife. We have deer that cross that field that come in and bed and play in our yard. We also may be a small community back in there, but we like our privacy, we like our quietness. And if you're going to add 200 and some homes, the little girl, it's now almost 300,000. And as most of you know, Phoenix has grown tremendously. And it was not a fun trip to go through. So when we moved out here for jobs, we wanted something that was going to give us breathing space. And I understand that communities grow. You have to not be stagnant. Your town is actually younger than I am. But I do wish that you would really think about whether or not homes go into this, because that puts a lot of noise on us. It also impedes all of the wildlife that would be trafficking into our area that we see. When we first moved here, we saw a lot of ring-necked pheasants. We saw doves. We've seen a fox out there before. And I really would hate to lose all of that just because we're improving to build homes. When we moved here, the northwest corner of 21st and Andover Road had a big billboard sign on it for sale, and that it had been zoned for commercial use. So I don't see why there would be need for commercial use in between a cemetery and 4 homes that face on Andover Road.
I would agree.
Okay, let's move on to the 14 factors then.
I'll go ahead and read those
Thank
this
you.
time.
give some old guy a break.
Yeah.
So, factors and findings. Number 1, from staff items. Do adequate sewage disposal and water supply and all other necessary public facilities, including street access, exist, or can they be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on the subject property if the change in zoning were approved? Staff, public sewer is available along the west side of Andover Road adjacent to the subject property. The subject property is adjacent to Andover Road, which easily supports transportation access to the site.
Concur.
Concur.
Yes.
Number 2, if the zoning change request was of control, staff, plating would be required.
Yes, I agree.
Concur. If the zoning change
Concur.
Concur. Number 4, what fact-based information in support of or in opposition to the requested of the zoning regulations to the subject property would the requested zoning change correct the error? Staff, no errors are known.
Correct.
Agricultural use.
Concur.
Staff, the requested zoning would not be incompatible if not adequately screened.
That's the only thing I have a comment on.
Adopted master plans and policies. Staff, the subject property is adjacent to an area proposed for residential uses. Further, the comprehensive plan.
Front and rear yards, side yards.
Nobody does grids. You have cul-de-sacs, curves, that type of thing, and the lots tend to get bigger.
Thank you.
Can reconvene the planning commission.
Second the motion.